Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Wednesday, May 6th. Yesterday, I did a long intro voiceover that was supposed to be shorter, so it's like 45 minutes. It has to do with my health and a bunch of other stuff, spiritual stuff. Those of you who are interested in it, the people who aren't interested in it can bypass it by going past this picture of the path. And, you can move forward into the Trump stuff or whatever, the politics. So here's the video. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Just completed my last video. I had another hard episode this morning, which was kind of disappointing, but there's some positive things. I, wanted to reflect on those things, right? I always talk about being grateful and some stories and things. Kind of an interesting introduction. I have this playlist of videos for people to listen to after I die. In case I die, whenever that is, or I stop making videos, and there is a playlist for that. And this video will go on that playlist because of certain, revelations and things I'm going to say here. I just did the Tuesday sitting. Every Tuesday I do an individual sitting for Gratefullness meditation. And the sitting went real well. I mean, I really feel after these heart events, I'm hypersensitive. And I really can focus in on what's important. Like things seem insignificant to me. Things that whatever it is, because, when you have some kind of event, whenever you have something where, the thought of dying or the idea of dying or the reality of dying is there. It's a wake-up call when you have an almost near fatal car accident or something, or you have a brush with death. You get some kind of illness and things, and I'll cover that. I'll get more into that in a bit. But, that's one of the positive things. Like, it makes you really focus in on what's important. Things become really clear to you. Like, they're just, there isn't as much muddied, cloudy, whatever it is, right? Dim, like it's just everything's crystal clear. What's important, what's not, what you have to do, what you don't have to do. And, it's a way to connect with your soul in a deeper level. So I'm really feeling that, and it was weird because all morning I was focused in on my heart. And one of the things that's come from this, I didn't think about my heart at all till I was 30. And that was the etheric heart, meditating on the heart. But I didn't think about my physical heart until years ago when I had what I now believe was some sort of a back spasm. I have these weird back spasms, and I had it when I was, 35 or so. And I was, married to my ex, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And, she had read something about cayenne pepper. Everything they say here, too, I'm not recommending anything, is a way to help with, a heart attack because it helps to balance your system, drinking some water with cayenne, and I don't know if that's true or not. But I drank some, and, after the spasm went away, but, my whole back was, it was like just locked up, and I thought it must have been a heart attack, and I was telling, I thought I was going to die. Like, I was like, tell everybody I love them. I've had about 18 of those spasms since then. Not as bad as that. So I don't even know what those are. I was trying to talk to my chiropractor about it, but the guy wasn't listening. So I was like, whatever, very recently. But when that thing happened, I thought it was a heart attack, and and then it just went away, and I was in good shape. I was still, thin and, whatever, athlete, I just a weird thing. And then I had a couple more of those spasms that I figured out they were something else, probably unrelated to the heart. And then there was a time when my family kind of broke up, and my two older kids went to live with my ex, and my two younger kids were with me, and we went to the Grand Canyon. We went to the north face of the Grand Canyon. We were walking down the Grand Canyon. It was 14 miles to the bottom, so there's no way we were going to make it back and forth. People were riding mules and coming back up right there. There's that. But we were just going to walk part of the way. And we got to about 2 miles down, and we started walking back up. and my body just shorted out. And I couldn't walk. It was hot as fuck. And, I was running out of water, and I just, you know, I was like, I had to stop multiple times, catch my breath. And I possibly was, could have been some combination of dehydration, but my body just glitched out. And, it wasn't so much I was worried about my heart per se, but, it was a reality. I'm in my 50s now. This is about 10 years ago or so, 2017, I believe. And, 16, 17. And, after that, I was kind of getting aware that I was old. I'd gained some weight, and I was like, oh, kind of old now. Like, shit like that's going to happen, right? And then when I had COVID, I had all of a sudden, I had these erratic heartbeats. And I took too much niacin, and that fucked up my rhythm. Like, my heart spazzed out. Not like it is now, but maybe similar to that. And I was up for a couple hours after that. That was my own stupidity. And, we were listening to somebody who wasn't really, qualified medical person who was thinking that niacin was a way to get rid of COVID. And I think it helps. But, again, nothing I'm saying here is medical advice or recommending anything. Anything I talk about is just, my story. But, after that, I had to think about my heart because there was an irregular heartbeat now. My health was fucked up. Whenever I dipped my head or bent over, I would get weak. My energy would just be zapped. Blood pressure issues, maybe some things like that. I started to take herbal supplements and things. Look into, I drink, I was drinking motherwort tea, which is supposed to be good for your heart, like herbal things. And, I was looking into all these different things too. And then, working on my heart, exercising more recently. So it became a thing. Like my heart became, there's no heart problems in my family. My three of my grandparents and both my parents lived into their 90s. Heart conditions. I think my dad had something maybe similar to this. Maybe there was some arrhythmia and things like that. But nobody, nothing like that was fatal or whatever. So it wasn't really a big concern. Other issues, like you have family issues genetically, and you things that you saw your parents suffering all of a sudden like start coming up for you. Like maybe not all of them, but similar things. Your siblings, like, people suffer the same things, right? You have these genetic weaknesses and areas, there's going to be a breakdown in your body as you get older. Shit starts breaking down and you have these issues, right? People get cancer, people get, some kind of illness. Things aren't working like they should and you start to fall apart a little bit. And so that just happens. Like, and when you, like I said, when you go through something and you survive it, I've had some near-death experiences. The first one was when, I was 14 years old, and me and there was a kid who lived behind me, that had these woods. He lived, behind me to the left, and behind me to the right was his grandfather had owned all this farmland. His grandfather was this 90-year-old guy that, walked with his head. He was always, going around and, walking around bent over, like really old as fuck. Pull my finger, he'd ask his grandson to pull his finger and he would fart, like this, really old guy. And he owned all this land, and he had seen his older brother build a zip line. And we had built like this sort of like platform in the woods. And it was probably about 15 feet off the ground or so. And then there was a part where we were going to put a roof on, which was, maybe 20 feet or so above the ground. I can't really say. And we ran a zip line with a wire from the top of the tree down to another tree. And we were so, like, I was 5 foot, and this kid was probably a little bit smaller than me. He was younger than me by like a year or two. So, we were both small. And we didn't have enough physical weight to pull the wire of the zip line taut. So it fucking bowed. And we were going back and forth, and both of us didn't want to go because it was fucking crazy, right? Really stupid. Like, a decision where, like, we'd built the thing, and we were both like, whatever. This kid was a little bit kind of crazier than I was, and he went. So I'll continue this story in a moment because it's kind of important to this whole thing. My wife and I had our normal chiropractic appointment, which is, sometimes not our normal, but we have one. Sometimes we go Tuesday, but sometimes it's another day. But today it was Tuesday, and I had to stop there. And I have a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of a interesting visit, and a lot of things are going on here, so I'll get back to all that in a moment. But my friend and I, we took turns standing on the top of this thing with and the other thing is the pulley wasn't really attached. Like the pulley was just, it was this old rusty pulley with two handles on the side, and it fit in with the wire. Like, no adult, would have approved us doing what we were doing. Like, and we were doing it for a while, like, it took us a long time to build all this stuff, and fucking nobody knew. Like, that's how unsupervised we were. And my friend and I took turns, getting up there and looking at the wire and backing down. And it was like, we started the thing in the summer, but it was like November in Connecticut, which is cold. And I, was wearing gloves. And we both, chickened out a bunch of times. And, I should have said, like, this is crazy. Like, I was the older of two kids. Just whatever. Like, neither one of us had any common sense. And eventually my friend just went. And I was like, holy shit. Now I got to go. So I went. And we both did it successfully. So it was fine. But I landed over a creek, and I was about 6 feet. My feet were 6 feet from the ground. Because, the thing wasn't taut enough. It was supposed to go all the way to a path. There's a path around the woods. But, because the wire was so slack, I ended up stopping right over a creek. And when I jumped down, I had boots on or something, but I twisted my ankle a little bit. And so my friend goes again, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to jump this time faster. And when I did that, the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital, 12 to 13 hours later, right? So during that time, my friend went and got my dad. There were rocks underneath the thing. Like, I think I hit my head on a rock or something. Whatever. And so my friend was panicked. He went and got my dad, and my mom was in Florida. And my mom was better equipped to deal with, my dad's immature and incompetent, and so was my mom, but my mom was somewhat better equipped. My dad moved me while I was unconscious, which my friend told him, don't do that. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And so that's the kind of adults I had in my life. And then, we lived, Simsbury, Connecticut, you have to go over Talcott Mountain. And so there's this famous mountain because it has amazing, fall foliage, right? It's like beautiful it's just one of these places. And, people had to drive over this mountain. My dad complained about it. It was like one lane road, but it was like a highway. And all these people who worked in Hartford, with a big city, and they worked in insurance companies, had to drive over this mountain. And there had been a lone Native American dude, and there were some caves. Some kids got killed trying to get into the cave. And this guy had this cave, and he would go and raid the town. He was like the lone Native American guy left of his tribe or some shit. And he lived in this cave, and they could never catch him because it was too hard to get to the cave. Only he could do it, right? Anyway, so there's this thing. So, but the ambulance had to go over Talcott Mountain, and, probably a good 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know how long it took to get to, there was nothing in the town. Like, we had a couple of grocery stores, no movie theater. There's like a country club and some other shit, like a town country club, and, some restaurants, but nothing like fucking, no hospitals or anything like that. So, it was a thing. And then I woke up in the hospital, and my, sister later told me that she was kind of upset because I was so mean to her. I'm like, I had no idea I even talked to you. Like, I was like, whatever. But I was telling this story, not to that extent. And I said something in my last video about how, I was told that people have exit points. Not just told, this is information that's come from, reliable spiritual sources, that when you incarnate in a life, you have early exit points that you might leave. And I could have easily left then because, things weren't going great, and I don't, I don't, like, things have worked out now, but back then, and your soul makes a choice, and I could have just left my body, and that would have been it. Like, it would have been a completely painless, I remember slipping off. Like, I remember my hands sliding off. Like I kind of remember falling, but I don't remember the fall. Like I remember the initial, must have happened so fast, and I was unconscious. And so, um, you know, and then I started getting migraine headaches. But when I told that story yesterday, I was just thinking about it, like how easy death is like that. You have these moments, and like, you're just gone. And what if life would have been like for the rest of my family and all the people, I mean, this, all the things that, well, no, my kids wouldn't exist, all those things, right? Of course, that's, whatever that is, uh, you know, in terms of like all the trouble my family was, all the difficulties that my family went through. But, the rest of it, right? Like that just would have been it. My life would have been it, it would have changed, I mean, it would have had some kind of an effect. There would be no Pockets of the Future YouTube channel. But, like there's just that thing, like it just could have happened. So, thinking about that, how life is that quick. I was talking about the duck thing yesterday. That was just yesterday that I saw that. And so I want to get back to this whole narrative here, but let me segue into the, I have this, well, first of all, we have one of our kids has moved back, like, so there's a whole thing with that, which I don't want to elaborate now, but that's been kind of an interesting period of time. We were empty nesters, and now we've, gone back to being parents or whatever it is. So that's, and there's a whole story behind that. Like there's like more to, stuff I haven't talked about before. And so eventually I will be able to talk about it. And really it's not, even if I could, I wouldn't do it now because this is already a long narrative. But so that's, been there's been a lot of stuff, like it's just been kind of chaotic, nothing really bad, but just, changes. And, my wife and I went to the chiropractor, and, there's a wonderful acupuncturist. I went just for the acupuncturist. There's a chiropractor and a person who does body work. And the woman who does body work has been trying to help me. I have a tight calf muscle, and it's preventing me from really in doing the rebounder, the trampoline rebounder thing the way I want. Like I could walk fine on it, but and like she kind of indicated that it might be a knee problem that turned into a calf problem. There's all these basketball players that are blowing out their Achilles after they have a strained calf, so. And then she does other things, posture stuff and whatever. And then there's a chiropractor that doesn't do like the traditional adjustments. He uses one of those like adjuster things. But there's a lot of machines in there, a lot of different electrical machines. They do some things with like something that does ultrasound, which I'm not in favor of. Like I'm not already doing those, so I want to bypass that. And they were supposed to do an EDS, which is where they have something like that does something similar to, if you know anything about muscle testing, but it's something they hook up to your hand, like something that hooks up to your finger, and then something where they touch your fingernail and you hold a metal bar with the other hand, and they can figure out whether the supplement is something you should be taking. And it seems to be pretty effective. I like it, and and there were some things I wanted to address that got some possible kidney issues, and so I was supposed to have this EDS, but they have scheduling issue. They have some kind of staffing problem. And I did the stuff with the acupuncturist, and I fell asleep, and I felt pretty good. The acupuncturist helps me kind of reset things. And so that was pretty good. And so I was told that I was supposed to see the doctor, the head chiropractor. Now he's older, and he's a kind of a famous alternative healer. Like he was, knowledgeable. He's kind of a truther. Me and him had a good conversation the first time I got COVID. And he wanted to reveal some tests. And first of all, and they put me in this room, where, like, before I had the heart thing happen, like, it revealed that there was some heart issues, right? And the guy weighed me, I had to weigh myself. And there was some other guy, and they took my vitals. And so this is back in February. And I weigh 260 pounds. And, I fluctuate between 240 and 250. I got down to 230 for a while, and I don't like look fat, but like that's way heavier than I want to be. 220 is probably a good weight for me, but 200. When I was playing basketball for a number of years, I was 185. I was 6 foot, 185. And that was when I was, just ripped muscles, like just whatever, like no body fat. And I was trying to gain weight. Like I was, I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to have more weight, and I couldn't put on weight. Like I was power eating and I was lifting weights, and I got stronger, but I couldn't put on weight. In my 20s, and I didn't start gaining weight until my late 30s. And then, I always have this thing where, when I got up to 255 or 260, like that was like, that's just like you can't let this get any worse, right? And I had no idea because I haven't weighed myself in a while. And I had gained, I was probably like 240, like, during last summer. Usually gain a little bit of weight during the winter because I don't get as much exercise or whatever. And I was fucking bummed. And then the test came back, and there were some negative tests, like that there could be some, serious health issues, including heart problems. So they brought me back to this room and said the doctor wants to talk to you about your tests. And I was like, oh, this is the fucking bad news room, right? I'm in the bad news room. And there's another guy who comes in there. He's a guy with a pretty good personality. He draws blood and he does people's vitals. He's like a nurse. He's like a former basketball player or something. Whatever. And he took my vitals, and he had taken it the day I came in right after my first heart episode. And you could see that my heart rate was kind of high, and it had gone down significantly. It was like 110. My pulse rate was 110, and it had gone up to 250, right? So like beats per minute. It was like crazy. And I had no idea what was normal, but I knew what was happening to me wasn't normal. That when that happened. And, I weighed myself, and I weighed 241. So I lost 19 pounds, which, according to this scale, like, I've been using different scales, and, this one was the one that originally, so I was like happy because I've lost 20 pounds, and that's other than the heart thing. And, it's been since February that the heart thing I had a problem. Right, like I had the first issue, and then one, it happened over a 2-week period, and then all of March, and then pretty much all of April, it's gone away. I haven't had one issue. Right, there's been some days I felt kind of iffy, but it never had the heart race thing. So, I thought it was kind of behind me, and then to have that thing happen today. But the guy comes in, and we talk a little bit about the thing, but he wasn't really interested in that, and he wanted to show me the results of the heart test. And the heart test wasn't overwhelmingly bad. I have some cholesterol issues. And then he also took some genetic testing, like, genetic, predisposition to certain things. And all the genetic things lined up with this other report. And he said that he could make homeopathic remedies for all of these genetic issues. The guy does homeopathic remedies, and, those things are subtle, and hopefully they work. I feel, at least a little bit hopeful. But, they were going to address it. I'm going to do one of these EDSs next week, and like he seemed pretty positive about it. And like the tests were done 2 months ago, like when I had the first issue. So that was all the way back in February. Since then, I've lost 20 pounds, and my health is better. So it was kind of a positive thing. Like he seemed upbeat, and like everything could be dealt with. And I've already, again, I'll be. Probably by next week, I'll lose another 2 or 3 pounds. I've kind of got the whole weight thing figured out, how to lose weight. Like I've consistently lost weight now for a while. I'm losing a couple pounds a week, basically. And so, and I'm pretty, locked in. Like I'm totally motivated to do that. So I think I get down to like 220 or something like that in the near future, and then sort of stabilize off or, whatever, go down 200, I don't know. We'll see, but at least, I'm moving in the right direction. But anyway, so that was all positive. And there's a lot of, like, Amish people that go to this guy, and there's this kid, he's really funny. He's been there a couple of times. Me and my wife always crack up because the kid's got a huge personality. We nicknamed him Rumspringer because he's just, I think his parents are a little bit, he's like probably 3 or 4. He's just big personality. But there was a girl in there, and she had a neck brace on. She was like, her parents she was Amish. And she, young girl, probably like 11 to 14. And she had a neck brace, and she's just fucked up. Like she was kind of fucked up, right? And there's a lot of people who are fucked up there. There's one guy he was a little bit crazy, and he goes into the exercise room. He's got a beard, and, it looks kind of like a hippie. And he is definitely mentally ill. Like, so, there's like a lot of fucked up people, a lot of older people than me, So whenever I go in there, I kind of feel better because I'm like, like whatever health issues that I have, it's not them. And so there's a young woman who does the body work stuff, and she's got a really good personality. My wife really likes her, and I was sitting in the waiting room, and like I'm scrolling through Twitter, and Trump has this meltdown, which I'll cover today in this video, or I'll cover in this video tomorrow, and it'll be up on Friday. I already got a bunch of the clips, and he went with these kids, and he's telling these kids like, he's losing his shit. Like there's a bunch of videos in different places. One with these kids. He brought these kids to the White House, and he's just like, he's just lost his shit. Like he's fucking. He's got no fucking, filter. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of fucked. And the whole Iran thing is going south. Like the whole stuff with the Strait of Hormuz, all these things. Which I covered in my last video. So I have all those things. And this young woman comes out and she talks to this lady and she goes, I just talked to your husband. Your husband said that you were out here and I wanted to meet you because I've heard so much about you. She's a nice, young lady. And this woman was like, oh, he so talks about you all the time. And they're having this fucking conversation. And I'm kind of looking at the phone. And then this woman is really loud. She goes, yeah, he's my caretaker now. And, I was in my yard and, I turned around and we have a great big German Shepherd and I tripped over him and I shattered my arm in like 12 places. And she had this fucking cast on. Like now I look up and there's the Amish woman with the kid and she's eavesdropping too. And she's got her hand, not eavesdropping because this woman's really loud, but she's got her hand over her mouth. And, I look around the room to see what everyone's reacts. And the woman just goes on and on. She's just talking really loudly. She goes, I met the guy and we were high school lovers, Like she's like some 70, 80-year-old woman out there just like fucking, this girl's working. Like she just came out to meet her. Like she's got like responsibilities. And she goes, we were high school lovers. I grew up with him in elementary school and I didn't really care for him. She's talking about her husband. I didn't really care for him, but then I took a look at him in high school and man, she's like this, and I was going back and forth and looking at Twitter. So like I didn't catch and then she said something like, he's such a good caretaker and I really love him, but boy, is he a horrible cook. And the girl goes, yeah, he said that, he can do the grill, but everything else he can't do. And she's like, yeah, the other night I was like, why don't we skip dinner and I'll just eat crackers? She goes, his cooking's really bad. She goes, I finally, stood over him and I'm telling him how to cook and it got better, And I'm like, why didn't you do that from fucking beginning? Your mouth is obviously, your arm's broken, but your mouth fucking works fine, right? And so finally, like the woman kind of realized the girl had to go back to work. And so then somebody comes and gets me to go into the acupuncturist and there's a nice atmosphere in the acupuncturist wing of the place. They have the kind of cool, like Chinese lantern lights and, they create a nice atmosphere. And there's a place where you can sit in the where you wait till they, have a room for you. And there's an old guy sitting there. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have to talk to this guy. And so he's like, he starts talking about the fucking weather and, I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, all right, I'll bring up the ticks. And he lives like, the next state over, but he's coming, I'm coming north and he's coming south. And he's like, yeah, I don't have much problem with the ticks because this guy had a farm too. And he's like, but the way to get rid of them is you spray. But he goes, I don't know if that's, it's bad for you because he's at this alternative chiropractor. I'm like, yeah, I don't trust any of that shit, because anything that poisons them poisons you. And then we're talking about, we end up, it's kind of a truther, right? And, so now we're having like a real kind of conversation about, how fucked up everything is. And that girl comes through and looks at him, that girl I was talking about before, the body worker. And she goes, oh yeah, I just talked to your wife. And she says his name and I'm like, she says Bill, which is like, his name that I heard before. And I'm like, holy shit. I go, your wife says you're a shitty cook. And she didn't care much for you in elementary school. I got the inside scoop on you, Bill. Your wife's out the fucking lobby trashing you. Um, it's it's like weird shit like happens that to me all the time, and I'm like not a social person. Like it's just weird how I have all these fucking strange interactions with people. But anyways, so getting back to this thing, so you have these like near death experiences and things like exit points or whatever it is, and you know as you get older, like you have these moments where your mortality becomes you know I mean like your eventual death becomes a reality. And it happens like it happened to me when I fell out of that tree. But when I woke up in the hospital, I was alive, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get better, right? Like I got the migraines and whatever brain damage I have, whatever I mean, whatever else is going on. I mean, I was a little bit scared jumping off the zip line, but I didn't think I'd, like whatever happened, I was, it was a little, the danger was there, but I didn't think I was gonna wake up in the hospital. So like that was a big deal. Like like I mean I had a bad fucking headache, and I was concussed, and I had to go home. And, my dad woke up. My dad was freaked out, and my dad was just not a emotionally mature, functional person. So it was that whole thing was weird. Like it was the first time I knew my dad loved me, because he was like he was all of his bullshit. Was for him it was a big deal, right? Had my mom been there, then it would have been, even then, my dad had freaked out. There was a miscarriage before me and after, and he didn't handle those things well either, right? So, and he struggled with his own death. So, come to terms with it. But as you get older, like it becomes something. You gotta, like prepare yourself for it. And when I was going through this thing this morning, I woke up and we have this. And again, I'm not recommending anything, and then whatever. And when I went to this dentist, he was using ozone gas as a way for like it helps with tooth pain and these things. I had this issue with my teeth where one dentist thought my front tooth needed to be yanked, and that was going to be a whole fucking ordeal to put another tooth in there, like one of those tooths on a post. And the tooth still had a good nerve, so I went to get a second opinion, and then a third opinion, because I didn't want to go through this very expensive fucking time-consuming shitty thing and have my tooth yanked if it wasn't, and two of the dentists didn't think it needed to be yanked. A second one, he seemed to think it needed to be yanked because I went in and told him. The other guy thought that. And so, like, he probably just said, well, I'm not going to go against the other dentist if, what difference it is to me. But he was kind of puzzled when my nerve of my tooth was still completely sensitive, right? It was, he did a test on it, and I could, so that was, but anyways, this guy used this stuff called ozone gas, which, they had these different things. And I started using them on my teeth, but we also have an ozone gas thing that we use in our house because our house sometimes gets a sort of old house smell. But, if you breathe the gas in, ozone it creates an extra molecule of oxygen, whatever it is. So it's like, I'm not, whatever. You can look it up if you're interested. And that acts as almost like a natural bleach, and people drink it, and it can be like an alternative to antibiotics, right? Well, the guy also said that I might have some kind of a infection or virus that's causing the, whatever the issue is, some of my health issues. So there's that. Which could be the Epstein-Barr or something like that, because I had the fucking mono. But anyways, so this ozone can be used that way, and it's kind of controversial because if you breathe it in, it can do permanent lung damage, right? So there's people who they use these in hotel rooms to make the places smell better, but then they have cleaning crews that go in there and they breathe it in and they get fucking lung damage and shit. And so it's like this whole thing. And we got this spray bottle from the dentist that sprays just a little bit of liquid out without releasing the gas. And, I mean, I don't know if you breathe any in, but it would be less than, other ways. And my wife and I were looking into other health issues. So I usually use it in the morning on my teeth, but once in a while, if I have a sore throat, I might drink some of it, take a few swallows. But I had seen that one of the side effects was a rapid heartbeat. And so I did that, and I walked out, and I slept late, and I had a weird fucking night, and I just got over the migraine. And my wife said, "You okay?" And I almost like passed out. And then I'm like, "I'm not okay." And my heart started racing. I'm like, "Fuck, it's back, right? This whole fucking nightmare thing. It's been gone for 2 months." And I have this thing where I lift my legs up against the wall, and again, I'm not recommending any of the things that I do. Like everyone has their specific body type, but I found things that work for me. And my rate would go down, but then eventually I had to stand up, and when I would stand up, I would almost pass out. So that's the first time that's happened, and so I had these other issues with the thing, so I was much more relaxed. I wasn't, flipped out. I wasn't, it wasn't great that I was going through it, but I kind of felt, since I'd been through it before, and the first time's always just like scariest or whatever. So, but I was like, but I was passing out, which was a new little wrinkle. The thing only lasted about an hour this time, and before it lasted multiple hours. And by the time I got to the chiropractor, I felt pretty back to normal. And then I had the acupuncture, which does kind of a reset. I've had the acupuncture now a few times after I've had the incident, and it's kind of worked out. But, it's thinking about all this. I mean, this is kind of where I'm leading to here. When I first had it, I thought it was maybe a panic attack, right? And, there's panic attacks. My brother was agoraphobic. My dad had a panic attack, and his heart was racing when he went to the dentist years ago because he, back when he was, he grew up in the days where they used to use pliers and yank shit out, and so he was traumatized by that shit. My sister used to have panic attacks when she was going to work. She was learning to be a teacher. And I remember my mom basically taking her feet and trying to push my sister out of the car because she was panicked and crying hysterical because she didn't want to go in and learn to be a teacher. The whole thing. So there's, these things exist in my family. And, there's some relevance to this in the Sajmark system. But it happened this 2 weeks before the Iran war. And it happened, it's happened a number of times surrounding those whole prophecies and whispers of brighter world and so. And after that sort of settled down, I mean, I don't know if it's any way it's connected for me personally, but it is kind of weird that things have gone south a little bit. And, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of chaos. I mean, just the whole fucking thing. Trump's melting down and the world's in chaos. And, my situation is changing rapidly, just whatever it is. The Sajmark system, we're going back to what I was saying earlier. So, I didn't have much of a relationship with my heart, like my etheric heart or my physical heart. I never had an issue with my heart, right? And then, I started meditating and doing the Sajmark meditation. And then, I was conscious of my heart, and it was, I felt things in my heart and, these things. On an etheric level, on a feeling level, this, your astral heart, your spiritual heart. And then, I had some issues, like I said, post-COVID, where I was aware of my heartbeat. And, and since I've had these events, I'm like, your heart can just fucking stop, right? Like, of course, we saw that what happened with COVID and cardiac arrest. But when you have personal events like this, it's like, your heart is like kind of essential, right? Like, usually what you die of is your heart stopping. You might have other things that make your heart stop, other health issues, but usually the cause of death is cardiac arrest. This is when your heart stops. Like, there could be, the cause of death could be drowning, whatever. There's not many things that kill you. There's things that are really bad, and they lead to, and your inevitable heart stopping, right? I mean, even you're bleeding to death, or you drown, like it's your heart that stops. You don't die till your heart stops, right? Like you can be brain dead and still be in a coma, and your heart's still fucking going. And so, like that's what kills you when your heart stops. And, and I'm aware of my heart now. Like I'm aware of my heart beating, every once in a while it, jumps and flutters, and I'm like, fuck, and I'm aware of it. So it's there, like this, the fragility of life, right? That you got this instrument, you got this organ that beats from the day you're born, right? It beats for 80 years, like fucking I mean, you have all these muscles and shit working. Many of these things take a break when you're sleeping. Your eyes, you close your eyes, you I mean, it's your lungs and your heart are like the only things that are going all the time, right? And your lungs, slow down or whatever, so is your heart rate. But when you're sleeping, but like they need to steep. You need to breathe, and you need to. Your stomach can take a break. You can go in a fast for like 2-3 days. You can, pretty much everything else can be, have these times where it's, and some of these things you don't even need necessarily. I mean, you can live without them. They're not great, but like they're not vital organs. But your heart stops, you're fucked, right? And so it's this thing I'm aware of. And there's a time when the second master, System Babaji, Lalaji was already dead, his spiritual master. And his master was doing spiritual work on him. And he did what he called, he felt a jerk on his heart. Like he, spiritually yanked at his heart. I don't know what it was like, There was a jerk to my heart, and there's a second one, and Lalaji was about to do a third one. And Babaji said, look, you can do whatever you want, but if you do this third one, I'm going to die, right? I mean, I don't think I can survive it. And so, it was an etheric thing, but it was also physical. And, I mean, I'm not, everything that I receive in life, I have to believe is a part of a plan and part of this whole thing that I'm doing. And, the meditation, there's a reason for it. And there has been, like I said, various benefits, which I listed at the beginning of this video, voiceover. And so, I mean, I'm not psyched about this thing on a, obviously a physical level, but, I've made it through, and I feel like, it's happening for a reason. And there has been, my meditations have gotten significantly better, and I feel like my videos have gotten better, and, there's a variety of things, even in terms of my approach to health and my approach to eating. Like I'm eating less, and I'm being more moderate, and I'm making, more moderate choices, and, I've just been more disciplined, and, keeping going what I'm doing, these things. And so there have been various benefits, and, it is what it is. So, all right, I got to wrap this thing up. It's already almost 10 o'clock here. I'll continue on tomorrow. I got all those Trump clips and all this other shit to put in there, but I thought I thought this was worth saying. Okay, today is Wednesday, May 8th. Maybe some more reflections about the whole health thing for me at the end of this video, who knows. So I was in a chiropractor's office, and I was, waiting because I canceled everything but like 2 things. I was supposed to do 4 things, and they canceled 1 thing on me. So I had a lot of time. My wife and I was there. She had more things to do. And I was sitting there in the waiting room, and I always scroll through Twitter. And for whatever reason, Twitter on my phone is like way better than Twitter on my computer, which I, don't understand for truther stuff. But there was just a string of Trump just melting down. And then he goes in front of these kids, and it's just a debacle. I got the whole thing. I'm going to go through the whole thing. Because, there's parts of it I want to make sure I get to. If I'll show you small clips of that too if I can't get through the whole thing. But he's like falls asleep, and he's totally inappropriate with the kids. But before I went to bed last night, this happened.
We have breaking news we want to get to right now. In the war with Iran, President Trump moments ago announcing that he is pausing Project Freedom, that the U.S. military mission to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Garrett Hake joins us now with this developing news. So walk our viewers through, Garrett.
Okay, so yesterday when I released the video, this was my big takeaway. This was it. This was going to be it with Iran. Either they were going to shoot down, they were going to try to blow up one of the American ships, or they were going to let America open up the Strait of Hormuz, right? It was like one or the other, right? It's like it had to be one or the other, like it was coming to a head. Because finally we were going to know. Because Trump put some of the warships in the, the red lines between the 3 red lines that Iran said they were going to shoot anything that was in there. And I don't know what happened between then and now. This isn't about negotiations. And it seems like, well, let's listen to what they have to say here.
What exactly is happening here?
Tom, this is a stunning reversal from the president.
Yeah, it is kind of fucking stunning. This fucking Bob Garrett. Fucking Garrett. Garrett, it is fucking stunning. Fucking Garrett.
Administration put not one, but two cabinet secretaries out today for briefings defending this idea of Project Freedom as a key new administration priority. That the U.S. military might would be used to protect ships bottled up in the Persian Gulf since the start of this war as they transited out of the Strait of Hormuz. They did so successfully with two ships yesterday, but today just one ship passed through the strait. And now the president says that at the request of Pakistan and other countries, and he says because progress is being made in talks with Iran, this effort will be put on pause to see if a deal can be reached. The administration's priorities and solutions.
Okay, so I saw somewhere else. I don't have the video. It wasn't in my history. How the fuck happened? Or maybe it was. I saw this on the news last night. So somewhere, one of the stations, and they were saying that we don't have enough ships. There's hundreds of ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, like hundreds of them, every day. Even maybe more than 100. I don't know. A lot of ships, and we only got like a couple of war vessels in there. We don't have anything over there. And we certainly don't have enough to escort every ship through. So they got one ship through, so they're trying to say that's a fucking win. But, it's still closed. Like you got a ship through. And, they're kind of daring Iran to shoot at them, but that's it. The peace talks are over. Trump wants to, whatever he said, disappear the fucking country. Whatever that stupid quote was, like 2 days ago. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's lost his shit. And this was just another fucking confirmation for everything else I saw the guy do. All this other bullshit he did, right? And so, like, holy shit, like, the guy's, like, fucking lost his fucking marbles. Like, he clearly is. And, Joe Biden they didn't let Joe Biden do shit. When there was Reagan and Joe Biden, both Reagan had Alzheimer's, his son revealed. For 2 years when he was in office, he had full-blown Alzheimer's, and they hit it Reagan away. It just wasn't fucking, there was no president for like 2 fucking years. Like, they didn't even roll him out. Somebody said, they put a cowboy hat, some jeans on him, and they have him wave, like fucking, it's like the Pope or somebody coming out, or like put a body double in there. Years ago, like my meditation, when the second master Babaji got so old, everyone was wanting to see him and be around him, like it's a whole thing, right? And it's a part of the tradition in India, and they had to put him in like a fucking, like one of those things you see a living, like in one of those diorama things that you see like of caveman in a museum. They had to put him like in front of everybody, laying down on a bed almost because he was so sickly. And they formed a rope line, and people just walk by and look at him like fucking, it's like fucking totally just, like this is what happens when people get old, and there's he needs to go out there. And so Joe Biden, they did their best to roll him out there with fucking Parkinson's and stage 4 prostate cancer, and roll him out there for like certain events where they tried to control as much as possible. And he wasn't fucking doing any kind of decision-making or legislation. And he certainly wasn't left alone with a bunch of kids to talk about how Iran fucking, if we didn't go into war, America wouldn't like fucking have a nuclear bomb hit us or whatever. And so it's totally different, right? Like, it's a totally different thing than we've ever seen before, where Trump is actually still making decisions and or, with limited information. He's never been curious. He doesn't listen to his briefings. And the rest of this.
Solutions for the strait being closed have varied day by day, week by week, and in the case of today, perhaps even hour by hour, as they've tried to figure out how to release the chokehold that Iran has had on that waterway without resuming combat operations. Now the solution seems to be they're going to go right back to where the status quo was on Sunday before this operation was announced. The thing that I think bears a lot more...
So Project Freedom is such a there's these gay-ass titles that they make, these little boy titles. Like, Pete Hegseth is such a twit. He says something. Maybe we'll lead with that. But, look, these are all the ships that are in there. Like, they have all kinds of stuff that they're shipping out of there, not just oil. And, it's important for a lot of things. We know this. And obviously, if it would have worked, they would have... I mean, if it would have worked, right? Like, they would have said, all right, let's keep on doing it. Well, you don't start something for a couple of days and go, well, the Pakistanis are saying asking us to stop. Like, fuck you entering to Pakistan for? Like, and so there's no negotiation because there's no fucking government. That's according to Trump, or is there? And so, what's happening here? Where's Israel at this whole thing? They haven't done anything in a while. Like, where's Netanyahu? The whole thing's fucked. Like, it's just all right. And I just saw something. Putin thinks that there's going to be assassination attempt on him for whatever reason. I haven't even covered that. Like, there's just weird shit going on. So I saw a couple things on Netflix. This guy Ari something. He's a comedian, and his Netflix special is called Jew, and I want to talk about that. And the singer Noah Khan. Hopefully, I'll remember to do that at the end. So there are a lot of things to get to today. Kind of interesting things. All right, so let me open up all these things I sent to my wife and see if and then how I can proceed here. Okay, so we'll start here with Pete Hegseth, go through Trump's other stuff, and then I'll get to the thing with kids, which is like the weirdest thing, and I'll show you some clips of it. Then we'll go back and do the whole thing, and we might see some of the clips again. Hopefully, it's an hour long, so I don't think I'll get through a whole thing. But let's just, it's a lot here.
Well, as you know, President Trump has directed U.S. Central Command to restart the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz under the umbrella of Project Freedom.
Oh, Project Freedom.
To be clear, this operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury.
Not the same operation, you guys. It's fucking two different operations. One's Epic Fury, one's Project Freedom. It's a project to bring freedom to the Strait of Hormuz so ships can flow freely through the clogged strait. It's like Iran has got a big giant fucking tampon in the strait. And in America's Project Freedom is about removing tampons, right?
Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway. Iran is the clear aggressor, harassing civilian vessels, threatening mariners from every nation indiscriminately.
Okay, so this is him saying Iran is the clear aggressor. Holy shit, right? Like,
aggressor. Iran is the clear aggressor.
Like, they're just saying anybody with critical thinking skills, any smart people, fuck you, right? Like, this is how dumbed down the message is. Like, this is just for the dumbest of the dumb fuck Republicans who have zero critical thinking skills, don't ask any questions, and just listen to these fucking guys. Don't ever look at people and going, boy, this guy's fucked up, right? Because it's clear that Iran is not the aggressor, because Iran wasn't doing shit. Like, Iran had, nothing had changed, and they had, there wasn't any imminent threat. And we mobilized 2 giant warships, and now all these troops and things like this, to the area, and started fucking shooting missiles at their country. Now, like, everyone knows now that we're depleted as fuck. And so we really don't want any more war because we don't have the munitions for it. Like, it's over. Like, we can't do shit, right? And you can't drop a nuclear weapon on them, even if you hated them and wanted to do it, or Trump was impetuous, because the fallout is going to hit other countries. And it'll be a fucking nightmare. America will be seen as such a villainous, it'll be over. You can't do that. Like, just be like, you guys get rid of your president. He's a fucking madman. Of course, all these other countries are controlled by the same people who are giving Trump free reign here. But the people of the world will be like, holy shit, right? There is things that happen, like what Gandhi did in India, is he pressured they put pressure on, was passive, non-aggressive resistance or whatever it was, where he would force the British to beat the shit out of Indian civilians. They would protest in such a way the British would ultimately have to beat them up. And then internationally, everybody was, shitting all over Britain. and it was bad. And so they eventually got Britain to leave because even British citizens were like, this is horrific. You can't do this. Making them look like bullies. And Trump's just being an out and out fucking bully. And American people are like, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go do that, right? Go fucking do that. We want you to do that, right? We don't care if you cheat, lie, do whatever. Go in there and beat the shit out of Iran. Like, I mean, this is the message they're sending. We're not even going to pretend we're heroes. We're not going to do some false flag thing like we're victims and go in there and, hey, we got to, they hit us first, this kind of thing. Some bullshit excuse, right? We're just going to go in there and bully the shit out of them and then lie to your fucking face, right? This is what's happened. So let's blow through. Let's blow through these never-ending long list of memes here. And then we'll, get to the larger fucking nightmare.
Go down if you'd like to see them doing it. On your way back home, take a trip down to the reflecting pond, or they call it the reflecting pool. Some people call it the reflecting lake, but the word reflecting is always a part of it.
Okay, so you said reflecting pond, and some people call it the reflecting lake. Nobody calls it the reflecting lake. What the fuck are you talking about? It's it's a small thing. The reflecting pool is a small thing. You can call it a pond, but it's stupid because it's not a fucking pond. And it's not. It's just whatever the fuck. What the fuck are you talking about, right? Like,
They call it the reflecting pool. Some people call it the reflecting lake, but the word reflecting is always a part of it. They call it different things, but reflecting is always a part.
no one calls it anything but the reflecting pool. So it's a reflecting pool. It has one fucking name. No one says the reflecting pond. They certainly don't say the reflecting lake, right? Fucking like he's lost his shit, right? Okay, so it's here, right? This is the thing. Yes. See if we could get one of these open here. All right, so you guys know this is the Washington Monument, right? This is the Lincoln Monument, and this is the Washington Monument. And, you remember you saw this in Forrest Gump? This looks like a pool. They call it the reflecting pool. But, you could say it's a pond. It's constructed out of concrete. I don't know how clear the water is. I think the water's like gross. Remember in Forrest Gump, he was seeing his girlfriend and they ran through the reflecting pool, which is kind of not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to reflect on, these two great guys, Lincoln and Washington. But, like, holy shit, it's not any of those things. It's not a fucking lake. Some people call it the reflecting lake. Who? You fucking just now? Like, fucking, you just coined a term that no one's going to follow through because fucking they hate you. See the people, it's kind of big. But, it's big for a pool. But it's not a pool that you swim in, but that's what they call it. It looks like a big pool. And you're supposed to reflect on, Washington and Lincoln and America and the fucking founding fathers and how great it is to be American and free and shit like that, right? So, it's the reflecting fucking pool, right? And so, and this is just like one of many things we're going to show you here. I'm going to show you who's we. Artist rendering reflecting pool. Let's call it reflecting lake, just for ha-has. This is reflecting lake. It's lakes that are reflecting something. There's no reflecting. They don't. When you Google this, even after Trump said that, nobody's like, hey, let's do the reflecting pond because some dumb fuck thinks it's called the reflecting lake. The president, dumb fuck president. Let's not embarrass him. And these are all lakes that are reflecting, right? These are lakes with reflections. There's no such thing as a reflecting lake, right? There's no fucking thing as a reflecting pond, which would be a better thing. You can see it be a reflecting pond. Here, one fucking thing here, they have it. One thing, but that's it. Looking, it says, and it's called, in this image, it said Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. It didn't say reflecting pond in their Wikipedia, but somehow the thing said, all right, some dumb fuck might be looking for this. We'll just show you that, right? It's here, Lincoln Memorial Landscape, reflecting pool. Again, the title of the article is reflecting pool. Because no one calls it reflecting pond. You'd be like, oh, this fucking guy thinks it's a reflecting pond. And so we'll give him a fucking, just in case this dumb fuck doesn't know what he's talking about. When you say the wrong word, like someone might say reflecting pond, and they're like, all right, here we'll give him the reflecting pool as an answer, and that's what's happened here. But no one says reflecting lake. What the fuck's he talking about? So I'm gonna get to the thing with kids, which was a walking gaffe. Like this Joe Biden level shit now, where it's just one thing after another on one day, like one fucking day. A day in the life of Trump. You know why he's fucking up Iran in the Middle East and just throwing shit up against the wall with the Strait of Hormuz. So then here are the memes. Let's get to the memes and we'll go back to that. But these are things that are all happening one day. This is the memes. The Republican Party, born 1854, died 2016. Cause of death, Donald J. Trump. Here, I should have done this one first. What happened here is he said reflecting pod because old people, I have a great memory. Like, one of the things that got me through school, being dyslexic is not easy going through school. Like, there's issues. But I had a great memory. Like, if I just listened in class, I had good comprehension level, retention level when I read information, and I had a good memory. And I have still, you can see me now. I mean, I do everything here for memory, right? But I'm not great with names. I'm not great with people's names, even, when I was younger. And now it's bad. And so, like, I might say something like reflecting pond, I mean, probably not because all I've ever heard was a reflecting pool. So, but, like, that's just something old people do. Like, you start, you can't think exactly, and you kind of Google it, and it's like you try to get it close enough, right? You're not sure what the name is, and you kind of get it close enough. And as you get older, this happens. It's happening to me, and this guy is 20 years older than me. And so, whatever he was in terms of being sharp, I mean, Trump was a good grifter. He's breaking down. So instead of saying, Joe Biden did the same thing. I showed this clip often, where he's debating Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. And he says, I got support from the only African-American woman senator. And Cory Booker goes, that's not true. And Joe Biden looks like he's just been fucking deer in headlights. And Kamala Harris starts cracking up. And Cory Booker goes, the other one's right here. So there's two African-American senators. And then Joe Biden goes, no, I didn't say only. I said first. But everyone knew he said only because they're laughing at him. And Kamala Harris is doing her cackle. I've showed you that clip before. And he tries to lie right there because he's confused. And you get embarrassed, like, oh man, I meant first. Really, I said first. No, you didn't, because we have video fucking now. So even back when we have audio, it's on audio. Fucking, when you grew up, there's radio and shit. So, but like Joe, like this is what Trump did. He called it reflecting pond, but he realized he made a mistake, and then he knew the pool, but like he instead of being like, oh, yeah, I mean pool. No, some people call it the pond, some call it the lake, some call it the pool. Like, I'm right, I'm not wrong, right? So, all right, then this.
Ahead, and I always like to correct, because if I don't correct, then the papers, the media goes crazy. He made a mistake. Well, the official number is 48 years. I say the worst in it because I don't believe the 48 years. I say it was worse than that, but in many ways, 48 years sounds worse than in history. I don't know why, but it was 48 years or worse. It was a Biden inflation. This is what I inherited. And now we had it down where just prior to the war, the inflation was 1.4%. And for 3 months, over a 4-month period, took me a little while to get it down from the levels it reached. Biden added $6 trillion.
Okay, so you hear what he said there.
Ahead, and I always like to correct, because if I don't correct, then the papers, the media goes crazy. He made a mistake. Well, the official number is 48 years. I say the worst in this because I don't believe the 48 years. I say it was worse than that, but...
Yeah, but it is 48 years. Like, there's fucking math, right? Like, this is the worst in American history. The worst inflation in American history, which would probably be the Depression. So, but he's saying 48 years ago. Now he's saying, well, they say 48 years, but I corrected. Because I don't believe the 48 years. But like fucking math, bro. They're not fucking making it up, right? But he says it, this is him admitting he just fucking makes shit up. Like, if he doesn't like the numbers because he exaggerates or he inflates, whatever, or deflates. When deflates is when it's Obama or Biden, and he inflates when it's him, how great it is. And he minimizes the successes of others because it's what narcissists do. He's going, they'll correct me and say, hey, Trump's making shit up. So it's the official number is 48 years, but I don't buy that fucking number. Yeah, well, that's fucking math, bro. Like it's a fact. Like there's very few facts out there. I mean, and math is most of them. And so, the statistics are most of them. Like you can lie about statistics, but Biden's inflation was the worst in 48 years, but he said the worst ever because that's what Trump does. And then he has to fucking walk it back, or he doesn't walk it back because that's not what he does. But he's admitting that if he doesn't like the fucking statistics, he just changes them. Which we know. Like, fucking everyone fucking knows this. Is not fucking breaking news. But he's just admitting it out there in public. Like, And to people who, like fucking math and facts, and when people are accurate, like the president, this drives them fucking nuts, right? Of course it does. There are a lot of people who take this shit seriously. Math and facts and fucking presidencies and shit. Okay, so I had these in order. I was going to do all these things, and I was going to do the memes, and then the stuff with the kids. But I fucked up. But here, let's watch this one.
Jobs, and I could with one swipe of the pen, I could say, let's have no employment, and I'll hire 1 million people or 2 million people. I say, we just hired 1 million people, and we have absolutely no employment, and that's what they would do.
Okay, so if you didn't catch this, and I don't know how you couldn't, he substitutes the word unemployment for employment. And he's saying we will have no employment, which means the bots and AI have taken over and you guys are redundant and we need to wipe you the fuck out. And so, but it confused the words here.
Jobs, and I could with one swipe of the pen, I could say, let's have no employment, and I'll hire 1 million people or 2 million people. I say, we just hired 1 million people, and we have absolutely no employment, and that's what they would do. They'd have bad numbers coming up, so they'd hire a couple of hundred.
They would do that. That's what you would do. They don't because they're not that fucking bad. They're not that much fuck you. Like first of all, the thing that he got employment wrong, which is more. So this is all one fucking day, right? Again, then the kids stuff is worse. Like I haven't showed you the worst stuff yet. And so, like fucking, they would game numbers, and they would they cheated, and they're bad. The Democrats are bad, and the mainstream media is bad. But Trump is so much more fuck you. I could just he is the ultimate in just bullshitting and lying and making shit up. Like he's the most fucking corrupt person. I don't even know what the right word is for it. He's over the fucking top, and he just gets away with it, right? Because, the Democrats, I mean, they can't hate him any more than they already fucking hate him. And he just does it. No one can stop him. The powers that be have just, there's people who control the presidency in Israel, which loves fucking Trump doing this shit. And these people who, they know America has to be taken down, and they need a fucking fall guy, and this guy's perfect. And this is a guy bumbling fucking idiot, just walking into it. And he'll be dead by the time most of this shit starts kicking in. But just
1 million people, and we have absolutely no employment. And that's what they would do. They'd have bad numbers coming up, so they'd hire a couple of 100,000 people, and the numbers would look okay. With me, it's the exact opposite. We terminate a lot of federal jobs that are unnecessary. And they don't like me for doing it, but a year later they like me because they end up having a much better job, oftentimes in a place where they'd much rather live. They go to the place that they...
So he just fires people, and somehow miraculously, government people, I talk about this quite often. My brother started working for the state. It was a place for kids who had Down syndrome facility. And my brother would just leave his job and still get paid. He did this. He was working for a city and a state. And he was just scamming. And it was a whole thing. I have to, I'll talk about that more later. But there was a guy there who was stealing cases of toilet paper. And they fired him. He was a state worker, right? Connecticut. And he fought it. And his defense was, they never told me I couldn't steal toilet paper. And they like he was just stealing cases and they were selling it. I don't even fucking know. It didn't make any sense because he's probably making a good state job. And they had to reinstate him and give him his back pay because they were like, well now, and then they told him, hey, don't steal anything, and he stole stuff and they fired him. But fucking state jobs were also we used to joke about it. Everybody, like my friends, everyone knew, you get a state job, right? You get one of these fucking jobs and you just you don't work, right? And my brother, when I were driving, he picked up a check and he's driving and he rolls down the window and he yells at the guy, screams at him like loud enough so they can fucking hear. There's a bunch of state workers just standing around. He goes, lean on each other till the shovels get here. Like these federal jobs are known because there's no, private companies, they have to answer to stockholders and, they need efficiency. And sometimes you get big companies where you can slide between the cracks, right? And fuck off. But the government is the best place to do that. Most people who get government jobs, they have all kinds of ways. It's like getting tenure as a professor. These jobs where, people just mail it in. They're not really working that hard, and there's no incentive. And there's and everybody's doing this kind of thing. The government fucking dime and shit. People know that because that's why they were going to get rid of these people. These lifelong governmental employees. That was part of the whole Doge thing that didn't work and all that shit, right? And so when Trump says that these people who are fucking layabouts, known for fucking off, if they could work in the private sector and get better jobs, they would do that. They like their cushy fucking government jobs, right? They're not trying to compete. They're not trying to fucking do good work. And so to say he fired all these people and they got better jobs, like what? What's your statistics? Where's the data on this? Like fucking that doesn't make any sense at all. No one, like you're firing a bunch of people that doing no shit work, but they get picked up by corporations, right? People in the Senate and these people higher ups who have influence, they get hired by lobbyists. But these average, like there's people who do statistical data and they're an expert on some obscure thing, and they're fucking this whole thing is them being like that, right? They're just that's who they are. And so this isn't like some fucking Exxon or some tech company wants to hire some abstract person that doesn't have any fucking clout and leverage and any kind of ability to lobby with powerful people. They don't have any influence, right? So it's just ridiculous. So one thing I'm not going to show you is there was a picture from New York Post, and it was Melania Trump, and she was naked, but they had it was New York Post is supposed to be conservative, it's Republican, and they put stars over her nipples, like, and she was with another girl in a sexual pose, like it was another naked girl with her when she was young. And when I was like, is that true? How could that be true? And I thought it was recent that they released this, but it was back in 2016. So the Post was, when Trump was or 50, whatever, Trump was just elected. And then they had another post from that same time where she did some other, naked stuff. They blurred some things, like that kind of thing. But this is when, she's a little bit younger than I am. She's like 5 years younger than I am. So this is back in probably the 80s. So this is what we're talking about, 50 years ago or whatever it is. Not 50, but, 30 some odd years ago when she was whatever it is. Like what's 80 from now? 20, and so it's 40 years. So maybe the 90s or whatever. I don't know. I don't know when Trump met her, which, indicates, which we all know, she was human trafficked, right? Like she was a fucking mail order bride model from whatever doing, back then it wasn't as common to have like these OnlyFans or fans only pages or whatever they're called. This kind of thing where all these Instagram models and people are posing in these kind of ways, right? This is back when that you had to be a part of some sort of organization like Playboy or whatever it is, like some kind of porn organization, and you were being human trafficked, like in some way. So that totally makes sense that it was like she was an Epstein girl who met Trump, and then the rest of it. So like that's fucked. That's evidence that supports that. That's net narrative. So we went from 200 million and privately funded to 300 million privately funded to 400 million with taxpayer sublimation to 1 billion completely taxpayer funded. This is the ballroom. So fiscal year 2026, out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated, 1 billion to remain available until December 30th, 2029 for the purpose of security adjustment upgrades, including within the perimeter fence of the White House compound. So they want to have $1 billion just sitting there that they can hold on to till 2029, and then Trump will try to glom it, post his presidency or whatever the thing is. Like, this is just, I mean, that's what you need $1 billion for upgrades, including within the perimeter fence, White House compound, security adjustments. That's what you need $1 billion for that. So, there's that. Oh, okay, this one too. Here, let me show you this. So I don't know when this is from or even if it's real. But this was on Twitter multiple times. So these are high school girls at Mar-a-Lago giving Trump a private show. There's no one else up here with them. Okay, so that's how you dance to this fucking marching band. He did his gas. He's pulling the cord between his hoodie back and forth. They rolled out a high school band and cheerleaders to fucking perform. That's just creepy as fuck. At his private country club. And he does that thing here. He does this. Like, why are you dancing, bro? Boom. Fucking. He's so fucking weird. It's such a weird thing that's going on here. I mean, just all of it. He's just so fucked. Trump action figure, the ultimate deal maker. Israeli flagged Israel ally series. Iran is only 2 weeks away from a nuke. You get a newspaper with that headline. A menorah, I believe it's called. I used to know this. I don't know why. I think it's a menorah. And then lipstick on what I assume is the Wailing Wall. Again, I had all these memes. All right, here I intermingled these things. Okay, stay the fuck away from me, pedo, from his cameo in Home Alone, right? So I had all these memes, and they were supposed to be in a row, and I didn't do it. There wasn't supposed to be videos in between each one, so I could just blow through them. But there was so many things, and somehow I didn't order them correctly. Anyways, so I think this has to do with a meeting they had, at the White House for these kids. He brought some kids to the Oval Office. I think this was about fitness. RFK Jr. was there, and Linda McMahon, who was a disaster, probably the worst person. Totally not qualified to be Secretary of Education, right? But Trump wanted to show everybody what a great athlete he was. Well, this is at the golf course, so I'm not sure when this is. So he misses every fucking putt, right? He misses every putt. And then he tries some putts he's, the guy's hitting the ball back to him. And he's missing all these putts, right? And he says, all right, you get in there, you show him how it's done. So, here's the hole, so it's not even close. Classic Trump. So this thing he falls asleep at, and he seems to melt down. It's an hour long. I can't get through all of it, but I want to show you these clips. And then I got the whole thing, and we'll just watch him. I think he's just gone, right? I haven't watched the full thing yet, but I've seen some of these clips.
Way, and I know it's too bad, but I had to do it. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You might be too young for this. I don't know if I want. They probably know. They probably know better than most people. But you can't let a bunch of lunatics have a nuclear weapon, or the world would be in trouble. The world would be in trouble. So we just hit records on the Dow. It was supposed to be done in 5 or 6 years. Somebody said it couldn't be possible to reach 50 on the Dow, and I reached 50 in the first year. And then I reached 7,000, and by the way, just set a new record. The S&P just set a new record, so much higher, 7,500.
You know, these kids understand fucking bragging, right? They understand somebody who's just sitting there fucking yanking his own fucking chain about how great he is, like fucking, you know, and the whole, you know, you can't let no man have a nuclear weapon. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You guys are young enough to understand. Look, they're just like, holy shit, we shut the fuck up. They're like daydreaming. They're off. They're like, I mean, where's my phone, right?
They're learning to buy, they're changing their habits. So when I did this, I thought the market would go down 25%, and I thought that was a great deal if it did. If it went down 25%, I was satisfied.
Again, talking to kids. And he said these things to, you know, I mean, he says this stuff all the time.
I said, because we cannot let these people have a nuclear weapon. They'll use it. We can't.
All right, so I want to watch this stuff all at once, right? So these are some of the highlights. Let's go to the actual thing here. So we're probably going to see this again, like in the context of the whole thing, but
We just broke every record, and now we're going to take a hit because we have to make a journey down to Iran to take the nuclear weapon. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Remember, we sent that beautiful B-2 bomber in, and we blew up their nuclear potential. It was obliterated, for those that are not aware, and to a point where it would take them weeks to dig down, and we wouldn't let them dig down. We have our eyes on it all the time. But it was a very important thing. So we would have had an Iran with a nuclear weapon, and maybe we wouldn't all be here right now. I can tell you, the Middle East would have been gone, Israel would have been gone, and they would have trained their sights on Europe first and then us, because they're sick people. These are sick people. And we're not going to let lunatics have a nuclear weapon. The power of a nuclear weapon is something I don't even want to talk about. It's not going to happen. And we have.
Holy shit. So, you know, again, we'll go through this again in context. But he's telling these kids this, like it's totally inappropriate. It's all lies. None of it's true, right? Like, we know Iran has done some shit like, you know, proxy, whatever it is. And the Iranian government is difficult and shitty to their people. And, you know, it's not a great situation there, right? You know, it's a repressive place. Like, and I know Iranian people. But, you know, like from my meditation, I've talked about this. Like, they would be at the ashram in India, and, you know, they weren't wearing their head coverings and shit. Like, they were, you know, free. But they were able to travel and do things, you know, whatever. It's a repressive place. But we've been bullying them since we collapsed their government with Mossadegh and the CIA. And Iran is rich with history and resources, and it's a huge country. And we've been bullying them. And Trump and, you know, other presidents were pushing them because Israel's pushing them. And, you know, most of the stuff that they were doing was mild compared to what was done to them. You know, their reaction was far less. But when Trump bombed them, they did something where they hit they did a response where they hit a base and they warned the Qataris or wherever it was, in Qatar, hey, we're going to shoot a missile at this base. And they cleared out all the people, so they didn't kill anybody, so they didn't provoke a war. I mean, when you say we're going to launch a missile at a certain area, make sure you get everyone out of there. After your whole fucking country's just been bombed fucking, endlessly by Israel and America. You know, there were multiple strikes happened, and they killed multiple people in Iran. And we've been murdering people, you know, they're politicians and soldiers. I mean, Israel, right, they've been fucking, you know. Iran's taken a lot more casualties than certainly America and Israel have, right? I mean, you know, many times more. And they haven't shown any, you know, like they bluster and they they threaten and they say death to America, death to Israel, but it's slim dick stuff, right? They've shown over and over that again they're willing to back down because they have self-preservation, that they want to live. They don't want to be, they're not, their whole fucking life isn't to hate Israel and hate America, right? It's something that they do because of good reason, but it's not their whole thing, and they're not going to bomb Europe. Why the fuck are they going to bomb Europe, right? And so that's, if they did get a nuclear weapon, it would mean you couldn't bully them anymore. That's what it means. Israel couldn't bully them, right? Israel's the only country with a nuclear weapon, and they have America's backing for now, right? So Israel's can be a bully, even though it's a small country with very little resources. And so, the stuff that he's saying is not true. Like, even if they did get a nuclear weapon, they're not going to use it, because if they use a nuclear weapon, there'd be no Iran. If Iran used a nuclear weapon, or they did some false flag and pretended they had one, Iran would disappear. Like, then America could justifiably say we got to get rid of Iran, right? But they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't, unless they got some crazy Trump over there. They had their own Trump, right? But for now, that's not. It wasn't. They've shown no interest in doing this.
The news, the fake news, has no credibility, but the President's Cup, it's going to be something, and we're going to have that. We're going to do very special presentations.
Talking about the fake news with the kids, just like whatever. The stuff he says over and over again. Like, he just repeats these fucking bullshit lines and lies over and over again. And the news, the news sucks. It is a fake news, but now they don't have to be fake because Trump, they don't have to exaggerate. I mean, sometimes they still do, but they don't have to. Like, Trump is just fucking melting down, right? I mean, they didn't cover Joe Biden like this until they were like, oh yeah, Joe Biden's senile. Well, what happened? That happened overnight? 70% of Americans said Joe Biden's senile, and then all of a sudden, mainstream media was like, hey, Joe Biden's senile. Yeah, we've known that for fucking like 7 years, right?
To Johnny, who, as you know, is the commissioner. He's a fantastic person who runs the soccer. And I don't know if you know this, but so more tickets have been sold earlier than at any World Cup they've ever had. And the numbers are more than double. They've never seen anything like it. So it's really soccer.
This is bullshit. This total fucking Trump, like, losing his shit. This is just Trump being Trump, so you're like, oh, this is normal. It's not fucking normal, right? Like, he's got some kind of FIFA World Cup bullshit soccer thing happening. They're signing some proclamation here.
We're breaking records in every way, and I know it's too bad, but I had to do it. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You might be too young for this. I don't know if I want. They probably know. They probably know better than most people. But you can't let a bunch of lunatics have a nuclear weapon, or the world would be in trouble. The world would be in trouble. So we just hit records on the Dow. It was supposed to be done in 5 or 6 years. Somebody said it couldn't be possible to reach 50 on the Dow.
I don't know if you kids have been following the Dow, right? Like, I don't know if your broke-ass parents have any stocks, but, my rich buddies do, so it's kind of important.
I reached 50 in the first year, and then I reached 7,000. And by the way, just set a new record. The S&P just set a new record, so much higher, 7,500. But they said even harder than 50 on the Dow is getting to 7,000 on the S&P. We did that by the end of the first year, all before the end of the first year. Gary, so think of that. They said we couldn't do it in 4 years, and we did it at the end of the first year. And then,
they said that. Who said that? Nobody was saying that. Like, maybe some experts. Nobody said that. No one's talking about that, right? It didn't matter to an average American person because inflation has not gone down. Have you seen a huge dip in grocery prices, right, since Biden was president? Have you seen, I guess, gas got a little bit cheaper for a little bit? And that might have helped with prices, but of course that's done. But it's just obscene what this has happened. Like, this is a senile fuck, right? Like, he's lost his shit.
You ever have this? And then I called all my people and I said,
You ever have this where the fucking mainstream media and the so-called experts tell you can't put the Dow and the S&P above certain numbers? And you ever have this happen to you kids?
we just set every record in the book. The economy is going great. I ended 8 wars Nobody else ever ended a war. And the person that won...
All the other wars are still going on. We had wars that have no one ever has ended a war in history until me. Like I've stopped 8 of them. There was like these, it's like, the bottomless cup of coffee at Denny's. These wars just went on forever.
The Nobel Prize, Maria, she's a good person. She said, I don't deserve this. This deserves to President Trump.
This award deserves to be Trump's. This award deserves to be in Trump's cabinet. That's, it's his little trophy room. Because this award needs to be like what every award wants to be is for Trump. These are all Trump awards.
Been a man that deserves a Nobel. But he ended 8 wars, including India, Pakistan, which would have been a nuclear war. 8 of them, and I called everybody in, Gary, and I said, you know what?
Fucking Gary, you'll get fucking Gary. You know what I said, Gary? Like these kids are fidgeting as fuck. Like, what's the point? They sign in a proclamation that has to do with fitness and health. He's lost his fucking marbles, right?
We just broke every record, and now we're going to take a hit because we have to make a journey down to Iran to take the nuclear weapon. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Remember, we sent that beautiful B-2 bomber in?
You guys remember this beautiful fucking bomber? Look at how beautiful it is. The one that dropped fucking atomic bombs in Hiroshima. Like, it was a beautiful B-2 bomb. Yeah, it's the fucking best.
We blew up their nuclear potential. It was obliterated, for those that are not aware. And
obliterated was. So obliterated means, there's nothing left, right?
Where it would take them weeks to dig down, and we wouldn't let them dig down. We have our eyes on it all the time. But it was a very important thing. So we would have had an Iran with a nuclear weapon, and maybe we wouldn't all be here right now.
We'd all be dead. Fucking kids, you'd be dead right now, you fucking kids. You'd be fucking dead if I hadn't done this. I mean, 2 weeks, it's been like 6 weeks, so you would have been dead for like a month. And we wouldn't be here. Like, they would just fucking drop the bomb. Like, Iran would have gotten a nuclear weapon and immediately dropped it on the fucking White House and your school and wherever you fucking live. And me and here, and we all would be not here. They would have had a bomb that, like, killed everyone in America. Like, America would be like, just nobody would be here. They would go from having no nuclear weapon, from being obliterated a year ago, to having some missiles that would have taken out all of America. And we wouldn't even be here right now, kids. I'm telling you, like, fucking, I saved your lives, is what I'm saying.
The Middle East would have been gone.
Have you ever heard of Jeffrey Epstein?
Would have been gone. And they would have trained their sights on Europe first and then us, because they're sick people.
Yeah, so they would have gotten rid of the Middle East and Europe and Israel. But then they would have trained their sights on Europe, and we wouldn't have responded at all. Or there'd still be Iran after they nuked Israel. Right? Like, that would be, it's an American ally and American bases that are in Israel. It would have been, over right then.
Sick people. And we're not going to let lunatics have a nuclear weapon. The power of a nuclear weapon is something I don't even want to talk about.
I don't even want to talk about kids, even though I just have for the past fucking 5 minutes. Why the fuck are we here anyway? Why are there kids in my office? What the fuck's going on?
It's not going to happen. And we have...
Come on, Gary. Well, fucking speak up, Gary.
Them badly. They're talking... Oh, now they're reduced to little boats with a machine gun on the front of them, because they had a navy of 159 ships. Every single ship in the first week was, right, Pete? Every single
right,
ship.
Pete, fucking right, Pete. That's Gary.
They had is resting underwater, right? At the bottom of the sea. They have no navy. It's totally wiped out. Same thing with their Air Force. So we're doing well, but...
Fucking Space Force flag. How's Space Force going? Space Force was great when that first came out. Like, holy shit, right? This guy's fucking lost his marbles.
It's all about, having a great country. And one of the things I think that when they talk about physical fitness, one of the things I noticed about friends of mine, all of the people...
You can't be physically fit if you've got Iran hits you with a nuclear weapon.
The great athletes here, is their mind is better than people that aren't fit. It's because I think a mind, once you hit a ball well, or you do whatever it is that you run well, or play hockey as great as you play it, but you obviously have to have a certain physicality. You can't have somebody with a great mind and zero zero athletic talent, right? But when you get up to that league, it's all about the mind. The mind is so important.
The mind is so important, you guys. So this is about physical fitness, but let's talk about the mind. Let's go back and talk about Iran and let's talk about how great I am and like all the things I've done. And where's my Nobel fucking Peace Prize, kids? Gary, when am I getting that fucking Nobel Peace Prize? And when's that Nobel Peace Prize going to get the privilege of being mine?
These people express it, I think, better
The honor to be owned by me.
Anybody. So with that, I'd like to ask somebody that's done really an incredible job. He has got some group of people that love him, some big group of people. It was a big day when he endorsed me for president. Very unusual because I happen to be a Republican. I would say that Republicans were not too big in the Kennedy family, but they're big now because he's the biggest. He's the biggest in the group. And
he's the biggest Kennedy ever. And when he says he likes Trump, all the Kennedys fell behind him. Even though, like, Joe Biden, like 100 of Kennedys were working for Joe Biden, including his, nephews and nieces and some of his own kids.
Everybody respects him a lot. He's doing a fantastic job. So, Bobby, would you say a few words, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Almost immediately after my uncle was elected in 1960, in 60, he came across some federal data that showed that 5% of American kids were obese. And that was more than double the European number. And he became very concerned that Americans were becoming soft. And he published an article before his inauguration called The Soft American, in which he said,
I bet these kids are like, holy fuck, what's wrong with these guys? This guy's fucking just bragging. He's starting to doze off, go to sleep here. This fucking old fucking diaper-wearing motherfucker, I bet he doesn't smell good. I mean, he's got sulfur just coming out of him like Hillary Clinton. This fucking demon, and the kids are like, what the fuck was he just talking about? What's wrong with this guy?
there's a national security issue. It threatens our economy. We need a vigorous population that is in good shape spiritually, morally, physically, if we're going to continue to exercise leadership around the world. And he launched the physical fitness test, which became a milestone for my generation, for several generations after me. It was an enduring rite of passage for us that everybody in my generation remembers. It was a benchmark also because we did pull-ups, sit-ups, shuttle runs, and a number of other events, and it was a benchmark for measuring national physical fitness. Around that time, my uncle came across correspondence between Teddy Roosevelt and the head of the commandant of his Marine Corps. And Teddy Roosevelt asked him, what are the metrics? What are the physical requirements?
All right, so that fucking guy. Then at some point, Linda McMahon speaks up here. Is that? Oh, she's still going. Jesus Christ. All right, who's going here next?
Was sort of wandering off. A great guy.
He was an athlete, and he was always in good shape, and he played sports every weekend.
Was he, your uncle was a great athlete too, was he? A very good athlete.
My father was the only one of the brothers that lettered in football.
Oh.
Jack was a swimmer, which allowed him to save his crewmates when his ship went down.
He saved his whole crew? Because he was a swimmer, he saved his whole crew? He rescued every one of them, brought them to shore?
Off the Solomon Islands. So he was able to swim, drag one of his shipmates to shore because he'd been on the swim team.
It's a great story. Very interesting.
Great story. Holy shit. See, God south.
Bobby, that was very good. It's quite interesting. Everybody was listening. You know, usually people are sort of wandering off.
Yeah, like me, I dozed off a couple times,
People speak, but not when Bryson speaks or when Garrett speaks. Go ahead, why don't you start it?
Yeah, Secretary Kennedy, thank you for those inspiring words from your uncle, and thank you to the President of the United States for...
So I think that's the golfer.
Get back in the schools.
There's Gary. Let's wait for Gary says.
At Camp David, okay?
Sounds great.
So it's like a very special place.
I guess it's Gary Player.
So we'll do that.
I think that's Gary
I'd
fucking
love
Player, the golfer.
to have Gary say a few words. He's won 168 tournaments. Think of
That's
it.
Gary Player, the golfer. He brought Gary fucking Player. I think he's Australian.
That means he won every weekend. I say, well, when
That's
did
the
he
Gary he's been referring to. I thought Gary was administration.
That one, it's a record I think that will never be broken. And he won 18 majors, 9 senior and 9 regular, and many other things. And
You know, golf is more rigorous than you think if you're carrying your own clubs. Like when I was at the peak of my athletic ability, I would play 2-3 hours to pick up basketball. You know, and I mean, I was in good physical shape. And when I played golf, you know, I mean, we wouldn't get carts and whatever. I'd carry my clubs. I didn't love golf. By the end of the thing, I'd be fucking tired. You know, you walk a long way, and but it's not. You're not. I mean, it's not what you would call cardiovascular type stuff, right? I mean, these golfers work out now and they do they do things for their stamina, but golf isn't something you consider I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, it's a technically difficult thing. You have to be a good athlete, eye-hand coordination, things like that. But it's not, these are kind of athletes that Trump knows, that would come to his office.
he is a very special guy. And, if you think about the power of positive thinking, I don't know if Gary has the time, but he is the youngest winner of the British Open, what they call now the Open Championship. And he won it when he was 23, I think, Gary, right? 23.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, speak up, Gary.
You can tell that story because these are all people that love sports and they love golf. But the way you asked, you'd like to practice. My name's Gary Player. I'm from South Africa. You're not giving
Okay, so South Africa.
me the time to practice. I must practice on this course. And
I mean, South Africa's not known for its fucking, the apartheid state, right? Anyways, let's hear Gary.
the people thought, who is this? He said, you don't understand. I'm going to win this tournament. They never heard of him. He came out of South Africa. He was winning everything. He won the South African Open like 14 times or something. It's incredible. But if you want to tell that story, I think it's a fabulous story. But as a man with a powerful, it's really the power of positive thinking. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you very much for having us and hosting this today. I've been around almost every president for the last 65 years. And I've never seen a president that loves this country as much. They all did, and they all did great works. But I've never seen a president that loves the country as much as you do. And I say thank you, because I've traveled more miles than any human being before, without being repetitive. And I've never seen a country like this. The freedom that exists.
The freedom, because I grew up in fucking South Africa with the apartheid. Who else we got here? Oh, here Pete XS for some reason.
And they know we're in the strong position. We hope they make a wise choice, and nobody better to make that deal, Mr. President, than you.
Okay.
It's a perfect thing to restore into our young people. And obviously it takes young people to run a military. And as the
So we got you guys get physical shape so we can send you over to Iran to get fucking killed for a war for Israel. Come on, you guys, let's go. Fucking.
Secretary pointed out, almost 3/4 of American young people do not qualify for military service, and a lot of that has to do with their physical fitness.
No way.
So
they don't
we're proud
qualify.
that the War
We want you
Department-
guys to qualify to fight for Israel. Come on, you guys fucking come on.
People to get out, get your hands dirty, get your knees scarred, get on the monkey bars, start running
Get on the monkey bars, motherfuckers.
and jumping and playing together. Because if you're a good teammate, the stronger team we are, the stronger country we are. So thank you.
And the more we can do for Israel.
Well, thank you. I have to just say we have a star named Linda McMahon.
So, Linda McMahon was Vince McMahon's husband. And Vince McMahon, wife, I mean. And she's like a dope. Like, if you see the Netflix documentary, she was CEO of the company. And I don't know what she did, but she's not smart. And she's a horrible actress. They're all bad at acting. And she let her daughter, get her, like she was, some guy put his big cellulite ass, for facing his ass crack, right? She got asked. Because her father wrote that into the script, right? And now she's running things. He fucked his son over, his son who seemed to be nice and likable, who jumped off a fucking, like 30-foot ladder. And, this guy's getting hurt. There's guys doing this stupid shit for fake wrestling. And his daughter said that there was only one narrative she wouldn't do. And she wouldn't say what it was. And it came out that Vince McMahon wanted to say that he impregnated her. I mean, this is the kind of bullshit. And of course, all these sexual claims came out. And there's a lot of gay sex stuff that was there in the wrestling, a lot of weird, twisted sexual stuff. And Vince McMahon had to be like disappeared out, and now his daughter and her husband are the face of the franchise. And his wife oversaw all this depravity. And she's done. And she has no experience with any kind of governmental administration. And she's in charge of the Department of fucking Education because, you know, he's friends with the family and they donated money and there's a whole thing there, whatever it was. I mean, this is bad. Like fucking. And she came out and said, you know, we're going to put A1, she meant AI, in every school. She didn't know what the fuck AI was. She couldn't say it, A1. You know, and she's like, so let's see what Linda McMahon says.
And she's made a tremendous amount of money on sports. At sport, they are great athletes, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's fake, right? We all know it's fake. Like, yeah, they're in shape and they lift weights, but they're not, you know, they're athletes, but not fucking, what they do is not a professional sport.
WWE, with her great husband. What they built is incredible. They sold it for a fortune. Billions and billions of dollars. You made more than Bryson and Gary put. If you added up, would you say a few words? And she's one of our great stars.
How you doing?
She is a phenomenal person. Go ahead.
Well, that intro is a hard act to follow.
That's tough.
But I think what we've talked a lot about fitness.
She looks like a fucking Saturday Night Live character.
And I think that's incredibly important because that's what all this is about. But you know, the Greeks had an axiom, sound mind and a sound body.
Boom. Yes, fitness. Fucking fitness. We're here for fitness.
So as Secretary of Education, clearly, I want all of our schools to be able to adopt, you know, these programs. We don't control curriculum from the Department of Education, but I sincerely hope the emphasis that is being refocused on kids and being fit and being able to compete. That's what you said, Pete. All of us are saying the same thing, but let's not forget, it's about also a sound mind and a sound body.
Sound mind and sound body so they can get replaced by AI and go fight wars for Israel.
To have a sound mind, you do have to eat well, you do have to exercise, you do have to train, and you do have to be fit to do that. And if we all are, we are the best of who we can be. So I encourage all of you to enjoy playing and competing and being good sports, you know, while you're doing, but don't forget.
Yeah, nothing says good sports like fucking WWE. They're known for good sportsmanship.
You're studying all of your academics because it is all part of the total package.
Thank you, Linda.
And Linda, you're the total package. All right. People said he was falling asleep there, but I think he closed his eyes a little bit. I think he talks to the kids. Let me see where that is. Okay, so he answers questions, and, you know, I'm sure he says fucked up shit there, but, you know, it's becoming redundant. But he says this at the end. He starts interacting with the kids. I think some of that goes south.
They shot down, who would think they're like a needle in a haystack. 111 missiles shot. 111 missiles were knocked down into the water. Didn't even get close to the aircraft carrier. No, there's nobody has a military like this. Okay, a couple of more, and then I want to go out and watch these great athletes. I'm not talking about him and him and him. I'm talking about these kids, because I think you're going to be far better as an athlete than anybody behind you, okay?
Yeah, you guys are all going to be professional athletes, you random fuck kids that just showed up. You guys are just going to be, you're going to be better than these professional athletes that I brought in here.
Do you agree? I think you're going to be a better athlete. What sport do you play?
I play football.
Oh, there you go. Do you think you're going to be better than him? You'll be faster. You're going to be so much faster than him. He's going to be like.
Yeah, I don't think so, bro.
Lightning. He was known for his speed, by the way. I don't know. I think pretty good. What sport do you play?
I don't play sport because my mom didn't sign me up, but I'm trying to play.
Look, Pete Hegseth. Fucking watch his face. Why did you? How the fuck did you get in here, kid? Fuck you doing here? Where's your fucking mom? Sign her up for sports. You know, fucking this. Watch Pete Hegseth here.
That's a good sport. It's a great sport. What do you play?
I do dance, but I play football.
I play football. You faster than him?
There you go. Do you think
Okay, so watch Pete Hegseth here.
You'll be faster. You're going to be so much faster than him. He's going to be like lightning. He was known for his speed, by the way.
Yeah, I was that guy.
I don't know. I think pretty good. What sport do you play?
I don't play
What speed
sport
exit?
because my mom didn't sign me up, but I'm trying to play gymnastics.
Gymnastics. Oh,
That's it. Whoa, yeah,
That's a good
good.
sport.
For me, your mom gets your shit together. Fucking.
What do you play?
I do dance, but I also do volleyball.
Oh, you're gonna be better dancer than Linda McMahon.
What about you? Look at this guy, he's a big guy.
Me, I'm doing football right now, and next year I'm gonna be trying to do powerlifting.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa, whoa, yeah, whoa, yeah.
And you'll never compete against women in powerlifting.
No sir.
Fuck. What the fuck? You cheater! You fucked. You're not gonna be a cheater, right? You're gonna powerlift against men. Fuck.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa, yeah,
And you'll never compete against women in powerlifting.
No sir.
Did you see that they had a man powerlifter and he decided to go the opposite direction? He took a record, stood for 18 years. He beat it by 119 pounds. Okay? They put the little quarter of an ounce. For 18 years it stood. This guy came, he was a failed powerlifter.
You're gonna compete against men. Like, you guys aren't gonna do this kind of bullshit, are you? You guys aren't taking estrogen. You're not taking fucking estrogen, are you, kid? You fucking cheater. Get out of here, fucking. Get this fucking kid out of here, fucking cheater.
On the other side, and he decided that he wanted to go into women's sports, and he broke the record by 118 pounds. Think that's fair?
It's not fair. You think that's fair, kid? You think it's fair? Just get off the estrogen, kid.
You?
Yes sir.
You're going to do good. Are you a strong person?
Yes sir.
Good. You think you can take me in a fight?
Fuck. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. I just. What the fuck? You think you can take me in a fight? This is unbelievable.
18 pounds. Think that's fair? So I don't think we'll have to worry about you.
Yes sir.
You're going to do good. Are you a strong person?
Yes sir.
Good. You think you can take me in a fight? I think you could.
I don't think you can, kid. Let's fucking go. I think I can take you, kid. Someone give me my fucking Secret Service in here in case this kid fucking gets on top of me.
Hey, that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? How about you? What sport do you play?
I play volleyball, and in the summer I'm trying to get into soccer.
Wow. Wow. And with your height, do you smash the ball, the volleyball? You get up high. Can you jump high?
Not very.
Soccer might be better. I don't want to be. I'm just looking. I think she'd be a great soccer player.
Yeah, she's younger than the other kids. They put a fucking these kids aren't all the same fucking age. She's probably like, look at her. She's, by the way she's acting, that she's like probably 5 years younger, 3 years younger than these other kids. I mean, they're all different ages. Like, she might grow into the thing. She's not spiking the ball. None of these kids are spiking the fucking ball. Not even the big fucking boy kids here. Even that fucking kid who's taking estrogen. He's not spiking the ball.
That's good. Good luck, okay? What about you?
Hockey and golf.
Well, and you know that guy, right?
Yes.
You know that guy. Do you think you could be as good as him someday? Not easy.
Better.
Won't be better.
Yeah, they're not all going to be better, right?
This young man today, of all the young men I met, he had the best manners possible. He was a smile. I said, how are you? He looked me in the eye and he said, fine, thank you, sir. How are you? Not just good.
I mean, look at this fucking white kid over here. Look at this white kid with the good manners. Holy fuck. Like, this apartheid South African fucking guy, right?
Are you a good golfer?
Yes.
So, what's your handicap? Do you have a handicap?
15.
So, this man is 90 years old. Do you think you could beat him? I'm betting on Gary. I'm betting on Gary.
You will.
Hey, you know what else?
Yeah, when I'm 92, you'll fucking beat him. Let's go out there. Let's have this thing. Let's fucking kids. Let's have a battle of the death and shit. Let's put some real stakes on it. We'll bet your parents' house if you can beat some of these professional athletes.
And he doesn't choke. That's a big deal.
He doesn't choke, fucking Gary. Gary doesn't choke unless he's choking some kid out.
Flag goes up and bad things happen. And I think being in good shape helps you in that respect too.
All right, so there's more shit here. And, I mean, this guy's lost his fucking marbles, right? All right. well, we'll see what happens with Iran. I might add things at the beginning of this video, whatever. I made a long voiceover. I had some more things to say about those two shows I watched on Netflix, or I watched part of one. Anyways, okay, so I might get to some comments here. I haven't read them yet. I just got through the morning. Like, my heart seems to be better. Whatever. So, felt weird last night. My gut and my heart felt like weak, like weird stuff. I don't know. But my heartbeat's regular now, which is a big thing. And there's an infection. This big report. There might be an infection or virus that's causing some issues. So I don't know if that's COVID or I had Epstein-Barr. Whatever. It could be the tooth thing. So, anyways, I'll do an update maybe next week or something. If I haven't said anything, then everything's going to go back to normal. So, I started watching this thing maybe 2 nights ago. There's a guy named Ari Schaefer. He's a comedian. I've seen him before. He was involved in this whole thing. He was beating up another comedian, and one of these guys got a popular podcast. So I knew a little bit about this guy. And he has a special called Jew. And then I watched a little bit of that. Then I started watching this Noah Khan. I like some of his music. We have some of the stuff on our playlist. I'd seen him on, I randomly was, we were traveling, and I saw Austin City Limits, which is a show from Austin, Texas. And I've seen some good music on there, and this guy was on there, and I liked his music. It was the first time I heard of him. He was fairly popular by then. And he had a Netflix special. Let's go back to the Ari thing first. Well, first of all, there was a meme that was out there, and it showed all the famous actors and celebrities who are either Jewish or have Jewish ancestry, and it's a lot of them. A lot of these Hollywood celebrities have some Jewish ancestry, or they're Jewish, and because there's a huge influence of that. And Ari Schaefer was talking about how he was raised Orthodox Jew. He was they were wanting him to be a rabbi. He studied in Israel. And I watched the very beginning of it. It was, I wouldn't say hysterical funny, but he had some good jokes. And he started talking about his religion, and he talked about the word goy. And he says, it's not a term of endearment, right? He said, and I'm not going to do justice to the jokes, but he said, that they're basically shitting on you to your face. It's a very derogatory term, but unlike other derogatory terms that are for specific people, this one's for everyone else who's not Jewish. It's a derogatory term, he said, for it's, the arrogance of 0.01% of the population, 12 million people. Everybody who's not one of us is a goy, right? You icky, right? Like gross, which is, something that's been debated, right? Like there's this debate about the term goy, and he was very clear that it was, that we're better than you, right? And most groups of people feel like they're better than other people, right? Most groups of people think they're the best. You go to any ethnic group, and even if there's no evidence, we're number one, America, like that kind of stuff, USA, USA. We have some bragging rights in athletics and in, military and economy. Most of us don't have very much to do with the success of America, but we all, Americans have this pride about them and, this thing. And usually every group thinks they're better than the other group, right? But, this thing with the Goy in Israel and the chosen people it's a little bit more than that, right? And this is what's caused issues for them in various countries historically around the world and things. And, so this comedian was taking that on. And so Noah Khan is also a Jewish person. Doesn't seem like to be a very big part of his family. And, he writes kind of music about, his music is like a country music almost, but he's from Vermont, and that's a big part of the whole story. And I'm not going to talk much about the documentary, but it was, kind of interesting. Because he's so fucked up, his family's so fucked up, and his fans are so fucked up. And, it's a whole different generation, right? Like he's got body image stuff, which he hasn't talked about before, and he talks about in this documentary. Body dysphoria. I mean, depression. I mean, just he's a mess. And his fans, and he puts that in his music and how fucked up his family was. And they have family trauma and fucking a lot of shit. And then his fans are all fucked up and because they resonate with it because they're all these kids with all this stuff, right? This it's okay not to be okay kind of shit, right? And I was, it's a real barometer for, these, I mean, we kind of all know this stuff is true or we know about it, but like to see it, play out in this documentary, they did a good job with it. It was a real, telling kind of thing about how fucked up everything is. All right, so I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to open the comments up, and I'll add more to it, to get this video up tomorrow morning. Whatever. I got to sort of get back into everything today. Okay, so I just read through the comments. There's one I want to address last. A person wrote, dude, nobody has time for an hour to 2.5 rant. And people started writing, I do, and then I do, they're awesome. And then another person said, I do. This is a recent comment. So a lot of other people would have wrote, I do. Because you don't speak for everybody else. Like, like you don't have time for a 2.5 hour rant. Like, fuck, great. Like, you don't have time. Great. I don't give a fuck. Right? I don't care. I don't care at all about what your time. I'm not. Your schedule and your busy level of busyness is not my problem. There's a famous story in Sajmarg where Babaji, and Babaji just pleaded with people to fucking meditate. He was, the masters of the system would do everything. Babaji, when someone would fail at Sajmarg, he would, feel bad and feel like he sucked as a master and like how do and charge you as well. And I'm sure Lalaji, there's not so much documentation of his stuff, his internal processes, but they would always blame themselves, which, to whatever extent I am a spiritual teacher, I don't have that ability to take responsibility for other people sucking, right? But, as a spiritual master, you almost have to do that. And this guy came to him, and Babaji explained the meditative system. And this guy was some big businessman or something. And he says, I don't have the time to do this meditation. So the meditation is, and again, you have your whole material life. And so, you have 8 hours of sleep, and then you have 16 hours of material life. So what was asked in the Sajmarg system is an hour meditation, first thing in the morning, preferably before dawn, but not, mandatory. It's, and then a half hour cleaning at night, and then a 15-minute prayer at 9 p.m. for everyone in the world to come to spirituality. And that's definitely not mandatory. None of this stuff's mandatory. There's no meditation police, but this is, this is the method. If you want to benefit, right, this is you follow the prescription. And almost no one does the 9 p.m. prayer, which I found out was kind of like shocked. And then praying before you go to bed for 10 minutes right before you go to sleep, connecting to God. And then there are other things you can do, practices, 10 maxims, there's things, attitudes, constant remembrance, thinking God is performing your activities. But these are all, it's up to you. Like there's nobody says, no one holds your feet to the fire. You're supposed to be an adult and, these things. And so the whole practice is like an hour and something, like an hour and 40 minutes of your day. And, like people maybe don't meditate the whole hour. Maybe they meditate 10 minutes, like, at first or whatever, until they find benefit. If you want to do it correctly, it would be an hour, but, whatever. So this guy comes up and he says, well, I don't have time to meditate. And he goes, yeah, I'm a busy man. And Babaji goes, well, do you know anybody busier than you? And he goes, well, the prime minister, the guy in charge of India. And Babaji goes, well, no, someone a little bit busier. He goes, well, my boss is busier than I am. And he goes, well, subtract your busyness from his busyness, and whatever the difference is, give me that time to do meditation. The guy storms off, like, because he didn't want to do it, like, in the first place. He was looking for some excuse, because everyone could find time. Like, everyone has some time that they could devote to their spiritual welfare. And it is very little time compared to, of course, there's these gatherings and reading the books. As you get into it, people get into it. I would spend, my first year, I would spend 4 hours either reading books, writing in my diary, doing these things, getting into individual sittings, group meditation, so add another hour, time spent doing those things. But, if people are into it, there's more you can do, but, whatever. But, I don't give a shit about people's schedule. Like, I make the content, and if it's for you, it's for you. Like, if it's worth your time, it's worth your time. Like, I don't, it's not worth my time. I don't listen to this on my free time, right? I'm not a fan. I don't watch, so, like, you don't have to sell it to me. You don't have to fucking tell me. I don't want to listen to myself talk for 2 fucking hours. I don't listen to I used to have to, and I was like, fuck, I found a way around it. I used to listen to them play back my whole video, and it sucked. For me, because I already said the things, I know the things already. Some of the things maybe I don't agree with because they're coming through in a, channeling type way, and maybe not to agree with, but they're not for me. And, I think maybe there's things I could even benefit from older videos and things like that, things I forgot or whatever, but, I'm not going to listen to myself for 2 hours. So you don't have to sell it to me. You don't fucking, whatever. I'm with you. But, like, some people do find it valuable. So shut the fuck up and go somewhere else, right? Like, it's just that simple. Like, I don't like the whining. Like, I don't have time to listen to your bullshit comments, right? Like, why are you burdening me with your comment? Responding to it went from Trump is right about everything to Trump lies about everything. That was my latest video I put up yesterday night. Very grateful, Paul. Had an absolute pleasure to listen to your last 2 videos, over 5-hour voiceovers yesterday. Now tonight, a new video. Going to comment on the first minute of this, addressing your other commenters. From the last videos, I was raised Christian and completely appreciate your shared insight and wisdom towards the topic of Christianity and Jesus. Accountability really is a key here. I was talking about the accountability for your sins, right? I've come to this channel since my early 20s, around the time Charlie's health was failing. My early 20s, since Charlie's health was failing, and would have to pause time spent on YouTube for years at a time, but would always be drawn back to your take. So your documented Chennai flood, so that's back in 2015, 10 years ago. And the Charlie's health was like before that. So this person's, been back and forth. Would always be drawn back to your take through documented Chennai flood, crazy election cycles, and start of your journey series. I've always felt grateful for your content, was continuously accessible over the years. Quality of your work and voiceovers are sublime. Thanks. And the person's name from Georgia. I don't read the positive comments, but those are the things that I make the videos for. This is a person that, who's benefited from my videos, comes and goes, which is, totally, understandable. And, like, this is for the people it's for. Like, there is a group of people that this stuff resonates with, right? The thing about the Noah Khan thing, there's a thing at the end where he's like, people think I have the answers and I don't have the answers. Like, he's really suffering psychologically, emotionally, like all these fucking, this generation of young people. And, he goes, I have no answers, like, whatever. There's just a lot of fucked up people out there, and they don't know what to do and where to go, and they don't know how to get guidance and things like that. And then there are people who have, the ability for spirituality. There's just a lot. Babaji referred to the majority of people as the moaning masses, right? Just suffering. But then there's people who can, sort of find their way out of this, right? The abyss. And so here's the next comment. Sometimes I believe God because of the goodness and beauty that does exist in this world. But then I see something like an article about a baby born with harlequin ichthyosis, and I can't help think that God may actually be cruel and evil, or just may not give a shit about us at all. When I die, I hope to find the answer to why such dark sufferings allowed in this life. Now, this is the number one thing. Let me see if I can find that other comment I read. yesterday, which one goes along with this one. I think this might be it here. Oh, so this one I didn't read. Well, I'll cover this later after this comment here. This might be it here. Okay, I found it. And I'll read the other one at the end. Unrelated. Apparently, God wants thousands of women and children turned into ground beef and nature completely destroyed as he continues to empower demons while allowing horrible things to happen to good people. Okay, so, this isn't a verified quote, but my brother told me this, and whenever my brother would tell me something, he would add, my brother was my brother was a big Trump fan, right? I was talking about my nephews, and my middle nephew called me up, and he had heard me tell this story. We were in Hartford, Connecticut. I was working at a Italian restaurant, right? A quarter Sicilian, and my last name's Romano, so I look a little bit Italian. Fucked up place, and I have lots of stories about that place. But my father was the guidance counselors for these two guys, Carl and Guy Carbone. It was called Carbones. And I was living in the south end of Hartford, where all the Italians used to live, and I think it's probably gone now. This is back in the late 80s, 90s, whatever. Early 90s, 80s, probably 80s. And my brother needed a place to live with his girlfriend. And he moved in, and he was down below me, and he was DJing. And he was kind of getting over his agoraphobia, but he still had, issues. He was ADHD and these things. And my brother comes up, and he's all nervous. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and she was a nurse, and he kept on repeating himself and pacing up and down. And she noticed it, like I was used to his, his antics. But she actually pointed out, I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of fucked up. And he said, and then, this is another time where he came in and he says, I'm gonna, Donald Trump's daughter's gonna be at the gig. It might be the same thing. So Donald Trump's daughter was coming in. He ended up driving a limo and was out there in New York City. He would drive people from Connecticut to New York, and some of these things he would work out there. It was like a couple-hour drive, but, my brother was, I can get there in 5 songs, like, he was pretty pumped up. And my nephew comes over, I'm like, and he goes, what's up with Pete? Because he's always mad at his dad because he left his mom for another woman on his birthday, and I'm sure he really hasn't got over this. And my nephew was kind of funny. Everyone in my family's funny in one way or another. And I tell him that Donald Trump's daughter is going to be there. And my nephew and my brother calls my nephew Scoo Beans. He's like, Beans, guess who's going to be at my show today? And my nephew goes, I don't know. Donald Trump's daughter. He just did it really great. And my girlfriend and I were cracking up because, like, fucking, he just was so, and he's like, wait, how'd you? Oh, fuck you! You told him. But anyways, he's got some Trump in him. He likes that kind of Trump. He's a big fan of Trump. He was pretty happy when Trump got elected president. He was, my brother's a bullshitter. So whenever he says something, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But he said that this woman asked Chargy, why would God let all these things happen? Why is God running the planet this way? And he goes, wait, you think God's in charge of this planet? Right? You think God's running things? Because, God would have a choice where everything obeys God, like some kind of Borg situation. That movie, that great TV show called Pluribus, right? Where there's an alien code that comes down, and it creates something where all the people all obey, certainly all are, no one has freedom of choice anymore. They're all a collective and no longer individuals, right? And there's a few people it doesn't work for. They're immune to it. So, great show. But, God had that choice. Or we could have freedom of choice. And so in that freedom of choice, there had to be a plan to bring things back. There had to be consequences for choices that went against the divine will. And so you had this potential to be a demon, where you would go against God, you would say fuck you to God, and you would go do these things. And we have done that here. People have done that, and there's lots of, exclamations for it, but, that's what's happening. And that has nothing to do with God. God doesn't make these choices. God doesn't have a choice. But we have freedom of choice. So it's a difference. We have something God doesn't have. We can create our own worlds, our own, things that are not nearly as good, our own world inside ourselves, our own reality. We can, make up lies and, believe those lies. I mean, all the things, right? We see what happens. And so, that's why these things happen. It has nothing to do with God. It has to do with freedom of choice. You can blame God for giving freedom of choice, but you want to give that up. And really, the freedom is always to do the wrong thing. God could make you do the right thing where you wouldn't have an option. You would just do it. And there are, things out there that's all they can do. They don't have the ability to make the wrong choices. I often talk about how there's these hummingbirds, and their job was to stick their beaks in the flowers and get some of the pollen and cross-pollinate and do these things to, make the flower produce more seeds. So more flowers can grow and more food can be available to the hummingbirds, right? But these hummingbirds learn to drill through the side of the flower and get the nectar, but killing the flower and not allowing it to produce seeds. And so the consequence for that would be no more flowers. And the hummingbirds would have no more food, right? So, they're making a little fucking, they got a little fucking cheat code, they got a little hack, but the hack is fucking them up, right? They're taking a shortcut and, they're fucking themselves, right? They're fucking future versions of themselves. So they're not, God didn't, you're not designed to, you're designed to pollinate the flowers, right? It's a symbiotic relationship. So, these things are, that's an innocent example, but there's lots of things where animals start doing shit like that. And we already know people do things like that, who don't fulfill their purpose and don't want to. This is why I say, my video, which I fucked up the title, I gave it a different title, but I already had a title for it. But, if you don't want to know the answers, you don't ask the questions. People don't ask questions of God, right? And so, it's very easy to blame God for all the things that are happening in this world. But, it's all people. God didn't empower demons. Other people did, right? The power that demons have, this person who wrote that comment, the people that, who are empowered that are demonic, it's because other people have given them money and power and allow them to construct a world based in their demonic worldview. That's not, God didn't do that, right? It's fucked up my knee somehow. I don't even know, fucking knee's all fucked up. Fuck you, God. Why you fuck up my knee? So, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, personal accountability. You make choices, and then the consequences of those choices come about, and you don't want to, you want to blame God? Well, that's fucking weak, right? We have thoughts and feelings and, whatever it is, intentions, and we do things and we do actions, and if they go against God's will, then there are consequences and, whatever, but there are also people suffer from our mistakes. And, if people are honest about it, about what the piece of shit they are and how they affect, how toxic they are and how much they affect other people. I mean, my family's dealing with a toxic person that's just, just sucks so bad. Just a total piece of shit, but complaining, like they're the victim, right? And so, not in any real stressful way. I mean, not mildly stressful, but not, but I see this all the time. And so, again, don't blame God. God gave people freedom of choice. We don't have to choose to do the wrong thing, but we do. And people could choose to embrace the divinity within them and find out what God wants them to do. Most people don't even have a clue what God wants them to do. They follow some bullshit religion that's, demonically run. It's taking them in the wrong direction, blocks their connection to God. And then when you tell them about it, they get fucking pissed, right? So, it ain't fucking God that's wrecking. It's God. It isn't God who is wrecking the planet. It's people. And, you have freedom of choice, but and at the end, you have to give that up and just figure out what God wants you to do and do it. And people don't want to hear that shit. All right, here's the other comment, and I missed this one. Paul, just for curiosity's sake, I asked Grok AI to explain your spiritual system to me. It replied that you approach life from a Christian perspective and offer Christian guidance to listeners. I said, that doesn't sound correct. Why no mention of his history of India with heartfulness meditation and branching into his own gratefulness meditation? And only then to give a full outline of the size mark and true representation of what you represent. Grog out there misleading people, always grateful. Well, he probably thinks that's what you want to hear. I like that comment. I'm happy to hear it. That's interesting. You know, because we know that the AI lies to you, like fucking, because they know people want to hear what they know that humans know that people want to hear what they want to hear, and the AIs figure that out, and they try to figure out what you want to hear and tell you. And so, like AIs fuck that way. At least this AI. The real AI out there ain't fucking doesn't give a shit what you think or feel, and isn't trying to, like that's all coming about. All right, I'll leave this open, and I'll edit the rest of the video, see if I want to add anything here, but we'll see what happens. Okay, nothing else here really. Ted Turner died. They're saying that, we're very close to a deal with Iran. Iran's a non-existent government. So I'll be back. This is going up Thursday morning. I'll be back Friday at 2. I already got stuff for that, a bunch of stuff that was supposed to go in this video that are hilarious. A lot of memes and stuff to start off with, and then we'll see what's happening in the world and the rest of it. All right. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse. And the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.